I gave my daughter and her husband my retirement savings to help them buy a house. I even moved into the basement to give them space. One morning, I found my bedroom door changed to a storage closet and my name removed from the mailbox. They said I was just a temporary guest. I packed what I could. A week later, I discovered something that changed everything. I'm not proud of how this all happened. I was just trying to help my daughter. That's all I ever wanted. I'm 68, retired, living in Eugene, Oregon. I spent most of my life working electrical for a contractor in town. Hard work, long hours, sometimes out in the pouring rain, sometimes in crawl spaces that reeked of mold. I did that for over 4 decades. I wasn't rich, but I made enough. I bought a condo, paid it off early, saved what I could. I thought I was set. I thought I'd spend my last years reading in the sun, helping my daughter raise her baby, maybe fishing a little. Then came Haley and her husband, Matt. Haley's my only child. Her mom left us when she was 16. That was the worst time of my life, but we made it through. I worked overtime, cooked dinners, drove her to school every day. She told me back then I was her hero, said she'd never forget how much I gave up for her. I held on to those words like gospel. She married Matt about 6 years ago. I tried to give the guy a chance. He was slick, always had a joke ready, always talking about his next big move. He never seemed to stick to anything. He bounced around from sales job to tech startup to freelance work. Every 6 months it was something new, but I stayed quiet. I didn't want to cause a rift with Haley. About 2 years ago, they came to me with a plan. They were living in a rental, pregnant with their first baby, and said they needed help getting into the housing market. They'd found this 2-story house with a finished basement suite. Matt said it would be perfect. If I helped them with the down payment, I could move into the basement. He framed it like a win-win. I'd help raise the baby, they'd get a house, and I'd never have to worry about money again. At first, I hesitated. It was a lot of money, nearly everything I had. My condo had gone up in value, and I'd been careful with my savings. But they were my family. Haley cried when I said I was thinking about it. "You'd be giving us a future," she said. "You'll always have a home with us." So I did it. I sold my condo, cashed out my retirement accounts, handed over $280,000. I still remember sitting at the bank, signing those papers, thinking I was doing something good, thinking I'd be surrounded by family in my last years. I moved into the basement. It had its own entrance, a small kitchen, and a bathroom. Not fancy, but I didn't need fancy. I was close to my grandkid, part of the household. At first, it felt okay. Haley would bring me coffee in the morning. Matt would shoot the breeze about work. I'd help with the baby when they were tired. I kept my space clean, didn't make noise, didn't complain. But over time, things changed. They got cold. Haley started treating me like I was just some helper. Matt started acting like he didn't want me around at all. He put a keypad lock on the door to the upstairs kitchen without telling me. I found out when I tried to grab a glass of water and couldn't get in. When I asked Haley about it, she said, "Oh, it's just for privacy." No apology. Then came the comments. Matt would say things like, "Don't forget you're a guest here," or "We need to keep the space clear for when we have people over." Guest. That word ate at me. Then one day, I went to check the mailbox and my name was gone. Just said Matt and Haley Parker. I asked about it and Matt told me, "You're not technically a resident. It's just easier for taxes this way." The next day, I came home and my bedroom door had been replaced. The door was cheap, hollow, with a little label on it, storage. Inside, my stuff had been folded and put on the bed. My photos were gone. My chair gone. My lamp gone. I asked Haley what the hell was going on. She looked at me like I was bothering her. "Dad, we really need the space. We thought it might be time for you to look into other options. Maybe a senior community or something." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just nodded. I packed what I could. A duffel of clothes, my tools, and a few photo albums. Left the next morning. No goodbye. Just walked out the basement door and didn't look back. I stayed at a cheap motel for a few nights, then found a long-term place across town. Small room, hard mattress, thin walls. I didn't care. I felt like a ghost. Couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. I kept asking myself, how could they do this? How could my own daughter treat me like I was nothing? Then I talked to Rob, an old buddy from the contracting days. I told him what happened, and he asked something that stopped me cold. "Did you ever check if your name was on the deed?" I hadn't. I trusted them. We talked about it early on, but I figured it didn't matter. We were family. He told me how to look it up. I pulled the records. That's when I saw it. I wasn't on the deed. Nowhere. Worse than that, the money I gave them was listed as a gift. On the paperwork, Matt had filled me in as a non-residing family member providing a non-repayable financial gift. They lied. They used my money to qualify for the loan. And then, once the ink was dry and the house was theirs, they started the slow push to erase me. I sat there staring at the screen. My hands were shaking. I'd given up everything. My home, my retirement, my security, for a lie. But that wasn't even the worst part. Because a few days later, I found something else. And it changed everything. A few days after I saw the property records, I still couldn't sleep. My head was spinning. I kept going over everything. Every time Haley called me Dad, every time Matt smiled while stabbing me in the back. I couldn't let it go. I didn't have much left, but I still had my mind. And now, I had questions. I remembered something from when we closed on the house. Matt asked me to sign a document at the notary's office, said it was just to verify the gift amount for the lender. I barely looked at it. My mistake. I still had the notary receipt in my glove box, so I called the office. They said they couldn't give me copies, but if I had a lawyer request them, they could provide the full file. So I called a local attorney. She agreed to pull the documents for a small fee. A week later, she emailed me scanned copies. And that's when the second betrayal hit. Buried in the stack of papers was a side letter, signed by Matt, Haley, and me, saying I had no legal claim to the property now or in the future, and that the donor fully understands this contribution is irrevocable and non-refundable. It was a trap. Matt had slipped it in among the other forms, probably knowing I wouldn't question it. Haley signed it too. She knew. I felt sick. I didn't say anything to them. Not yet. I needed to be smart. I needed to think like they did. Cold, calculating, without emotion. Then came the twist. One morning, I went to pick up a few tools I'd left behind at a friend's house. He's a plumber I used to work with on job sites. While I was there, I vented to him about what happened. He listened, then asked something strange. Didn't Matt just refinance the place? I thought I saw his name at the title office a few weeks ago. That hit me like a brick. Refinance? Why? I started digging again. I pulled more public records, and I found it. 2 months ago, just a few weeks before they pushed me out, Matt had refinanced the house. Took out $180,000 in equity, paid off credit cards, dumped cash into a crypto fund, and spent $60,000 remodeling the upstairs kitchen. They took my money, then borrowed more money against the house I helped them buy while pushing me out. But that wasn't all. The title report showed something strange. A notice of default had been filed on the original mortgage 6 months ago, meaning they had stopped paying the loan for a while. Probably during the time they were telling me everything was tight and they needed privacy. So let me break it down. I gave them $280,000. They told the bank it was a gift. They got me to sign away any legal rights. They refinanced and took another $180,000 in cash. And they were close to losing the house before that refinance saved them. And now they were acting like I was the burden? No. That's when I made a decision. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to hit them where it hurt. But I needed help. I called my lawyer again. I told her everything. I asked her, "Is there any way I can fight this?" She paused, then said, "Not through ownership, but maybe through fraud." Fraud. That's the word that stuck. Because what Matt did, getting me to sign that form under false pretenses, claiming I understood it when I didn't, and calling it a gift when it clearly wasn't, might not hold up if a judge saw the full story, especially since they lied about me being a co-resident in the beginning, and the notary may have been unaware I didn't get proper explanation. I had a small chance, but I also had another idea. Something quieter. Something they'd never see coming. While my lawyers started digging into the fraud angle, I worked on my own plan. I wasn't going to wait for some drawn-out lawsuit. I wanted leverage now. Something real. That's when I remembered Matt's old startup talk. He was always bragging about building an app with a friend from college. Said it was going to disrupt the market. Back then, I thought it was just talk. But now I wondered, where did all that refinance money really go? I searched the Oregon Secretary of State's business registry. After a few tries, I found something. A small LLC registered under Haley's name, not Matt's. It was tied to a vague-sounding consulting and development firm with a Portland P.O. box. The filing date? Exactly 3 days after the refinance went through. They used my money to start a fake business. I was stunned. Why use Haley's name? Then I realized Matt had terrible credit. Probably couldn't get funding himself. So he used her name to move money without raising suspicion. But it gets worse. I checked her LinkedIn profile, something I hadn't done in years. It was updated just last month. She was now listed as co-founder, Parker Digital. Same address as the LLC. Same name on the refinance. She hadn't told me anything about starting a company. Not a word. And now she was fronting for Matt's shady project. I knew there had to be more. So I called an old electrician I trained years ago. He's working with city permits now. I asked him if anything was filed for the house since the refinance. He emailed me a copy of a recent inspection request. Not only had Matt remodeled the upstairs kitchen, they were planning to split the house into a duplex. They'd already filed plans to rent out the basement, my basement, as a short-term Airbnb. So that's what this was all about. They wanted me out so they could turn the basement into income. They were going to list it online, rent it out to tourists, and pocket the cash. Probably already ordered new furniture with the refinance money. I sat in that cheap room with a single window, looking at the photos I'd taken down from the basement walls just weeks earlier. Photos of Haley when she was 5, of me and her at the coast, her in pigtails, holding a crab she caught. She erased all of it for an extra rental check. That's when I decided I was going to burn it down. Not the house. Not literally. But everything they built on my back. Every lie, every fake company, every secret plan to profit off me. I was going to expose it. Because I just found the one thing Matt didn't cover his tracks on. And it could ruin everything. Once I saw that permit for the Airbnb, I knew exactly what I had to do. Matt and Haley had made one mistake in their greedy little plan. They used my money and my presence to qualify for that house. They couldn't have done it without me. And they left a paper trail. All I had to do was make it public. I started with the permit office. I requested every document they filed. Sure enough, in the original purchase application, Matt listed me as a co-residing family member providing supportive housing. It helped them qualify under a special loan program for multi-generational homes. But once they got the keys, they erased me. That was fraud. I had my lawyer draft a letter. It went to their mortgage lender, the city planning department, the loan assistance program, and the county housing authority. It laid out everything. The $280,000 gift, the notarized trick paperwork, the fact that I'd been a legal resident used to secure funding, and then removed without a proper process. The letter included copies of the refinance documents, the LLC business filing under Haley's name, and the Airbnb application. My lawyer didn't accuse them directly. She just asked the agencies to review for compliance. Within 3 weeks, the fallout started. First, the mortgage lender opened an investigation. The type of loan Matt used had very strict rules about gifts and residency. They demanded documentation proving I was truly a non-residing donor at the time of the sale. Matt couldn't provide it because I was living in the basement the whole time. Then the city halted their Airbnb permit. Since the refinance was based on owner-occupied dual living, and they had me listed as that second party, converting it to a short-term rental violated their zoning approval. The kicker? The county housing office flagged their loan for potential abuse. That triggered an automatic review. And when they saw the LLC transfer and how the equity loan was used, they pulled in the IRS. Matt panicked. I know this because, one night, Haley showed up at my motel door. She looked tired, different, worn down. "Dad, what are you doing?" she asked. I didn't speak. She sat down on the motel bed, looked around at the sad little room I'd been living in for months, and she cried. I didn't know he filed that gift form. I swear. He just told me it was part of the paperwork. I never meant for it to go this far. I just stared at her. I wanted to believe her. God knows I did. But then I remembered that form with her signature. I gave you everything, I said. And you gave me a storage closet. She didn't answer. She left in silence. The next week, Matt called me. First time in over 2 months. Said we needed to clear the air. I told him the air was already clear. I saw exactly what he was. 2 months later, the loan was rescinded. The lender revoked their special rate. Their monthly payment jumped nearly $1,200. The IRS placed a lien on the house pending a fraud review. The city froze their LLC's permit. And best of all, the local housing authority filed a civil fraud claim against both of them for misusing elder contributions and misrepresenting residency. Haley lost her job. Her school district didn't want a fraud investigation hanging over a teacher. Matt tried to sell the house to stay ahead of the payments, but with a lien on it, no one would touch it. Eventually, they defaulted. The bank foreclosed. The house, my house, was sold at auction. I didn't get my money back. That part hurt, but I got something better. Everyone saw them for who they really were. They lost their home, their income, their reputation. And everywhere they turned, there was paperwork with my name on it, proof that I wasn't the temporary guest. I was the foundation. They just thought they could throw me away. But you can't erase someone who built the house you're standing in.